Good morning, everyone. So this was the last problem we did. Everyone switch on your cams. Let's start off. So the next thing is conservative force. So we have dealt with forces, work done by forces and all. Now what is this conservative force? So work done by a conservative force is independent of the path. Meaning if you're going from A to B, it does not matter how you go from A to B. It depends only on initial and final position. So if there's any work, which does not, everyone should keep the cams on, right? Or else I'll be removing you from the group. Don't keep, make me repeat this thing every time. You're not in kindergarten. So it depends only on initial and final positions. So work done by a conservative force in a round trip is 0. I'll give you some examples on this. So it really doesn't matter how you go from one point to another point. You can go any path you want, but the work done will remain same. If you're making a round trip that you started from some point and you came back to the same point, it's 0. Examples of conservative force are gravity, spring force, right? Or any constant force. So all these are examples of a conservative force. Similarly, we also have something called non-conservative force. So what's non-conservative force? The work done depends on the path. Example, friction, viscosity. Viscosity is the same thing, friction only, but between liquids and fluids. Put it up. So, there are certain forces when you do, work with them, they don't depend on the path, and certain forces, the work done depends on the path. Let's see how this thing works. So if you take work done by gravity. Let's say we have a block here at position A and you're taking it to position B. You're going some weird path like this. Now the thing is, no matter how you go, when the block is here, when the block is here, you'll observe the force was always downward. So when you're traveling from A to B, the gravity is always down. Let this be length L and let this be height h. So if you take this as origin 0, 0, this will be L, h, coordinates of B. So now here work done by gravity, since the force is constant, it's F bar dot AB bar. F bar is minus mg j cap because the force is always down. The displacement is Li cap and h j cap. When it is a dot product, only the j cap components will multiply, you get minus mgh. If you see this thing, this was independent of the path and depends only on the height. Meaning it doesn't matter how you go from A to B. You can go in a straight line, you can go in a curve, you can go in like this. Any way you want, you can go. Answer will remain same, mgh. So this is what I was trying to tell you. The work done is independent of the path. If I say you're going from A to B and did not ask you how you are going, no matter how you go, this will be the answer. So it depends only on the height h from the A to the point B. It doesn't even depend on the length also. Because force is vertical, only vertical displacement will matter. So put that down. So that's why gravity is a conservative force. Clear? Then work done by spring force. K is the spring constant. It's a natural length. You know, when there is a natural length, there is no force. So if you pull the spring by distance x, how will the force be? Remember, spring is always resistive. If you pull the spring, it will pull you back. And let the displacement be dx. So force is k into x. So the force is pulling back and the displacement is forward. And if you look the work done by the spring here, now see F is not constant. The more you stretch, more force you have. So this becomes minus kx dx, minus because it is in the opposite direction. So you get minus kx x dx. So you end up with minus half kx square. If you see again, independent of the path, depends only on the elongation or compression. Meaning, if you have taken this spring from natural length, you pulled it till here and then you brought it back. You stretch it by 3x, then you bring it to x, or you compress it by x and then you pull it again. You do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. The work done depends only on initially, finally. You can stretch it, compress, stretch, you do anything you want. It doesn't matter. The work done by the spring will remain same. You need not ask me, sir, how are you going with the spring? It doesn't matter. Go any way you want, the answer will remain same. So that's why the spring force is also a conservative force. So normally in mechanics, these are the only two conservative forces we have, gravitation and spring. when we study electrostatics in 12th standard ka topic, their electrostatic force is also conservative. So overall, these are the three forces which we handle normally at our level. So in mechanics, so we have only spring and gravity. So these two are conservative forces. Let me give an example of a non-conservative. Put it down.
Sir, could you go to the previous page once? Thank you, sir.
Clear? Then if we talk about work done by friction. Now let's say the particle is going somewhat like this. Now, how will the friction be? The friction will be always, tangential. Displacement is this way. When it is here, friction is this way. Displacement is this way. Friction, displacement. Meaning, as you're dragging this block on this, curved surface, the friction will be always tangential. So here, F and displacement are always opposite. This is just like the pencil drawing a circle. So when you take work done by friction, this becomes integral minus FTS because both are opposite. You get minus F integral ds. So ds is that arc length. This will be minus F into length of the path. You're adding all that small arc length ka distance, ds. So indirectly, you're just getting the length of the path. So if you see, if you're going in a straight line, you have a different answer. If you go in a curve, you have a different answer. This will have a different answer. So different paths have different answers. So that's why this thing depends on the path. And therefore friction is non-conservative, so kinetic friction is non-conservative. So whenever you have to find work done with friction, you need to ask like, how are you going? Put it on. Copied. Then we define something called potential energy. The symbol we use is U. The work done by internal conservative forces is given by negative of change in potential energy. What do you mean by this exactly? So I can write it as work done by internal conservative is minus delta U. What does this negative sign indicate? Think of it like this. If you are doing work, what will happen to your energy levels? Decreases, no? So negative sign indicates if a system does work, its potential energy, that is its internal energy U decreases. That's what the minus sign indicates. So the work done, we know dW is minus du. So work done is F bar dot dr bar is minus du. So we can write force is minus du by dr. This is an important one, and this one. It's a straightforward question, huh? This first one. Okay, multiple times, like they'll ask you the straightforward question. Work done by internal conservative, which of the following statements is true? Work done by internal conservative forces is change in potential energy. Work done by internal conservative forces is negative of change in potential energy. Work done by internal conservative forces change in kinetic energy. It's equal to change in total energy. So they give you 4 options like this. So most people now habit, they write work done by internal conservative forces change in potential energy. There is a minus sign. So questions will be pretty simple based on the theory part, but you should know. Put it up.
So can you show previous page for a minute?
Still copying. Copied. Next one. Now, next one is important. Listen carefully. This will come in 3 more chapters. So this force which we have is minus du by dr. We write this thing as minus dou u by dou x I cap. It's not differential. It is dou u by dou y j cap minus dou u by dou z k cap. What's this exactly? This symbol dou is partial differentiation. Just like differentiation, it is quite similar, but partial differentiation. What do you mean by that? For example, when you say dou by dou x implies x is a variable. So unlike differential where you differentiate everything, when you say x is dou by dou x, x is a variable, y and z are constants. That's we call it partial differentiation. You're differentiating only a part of it. I'll give an example. So when you say dou y by dou y is a variable. Everything else is constant. So if you see x and z anywhere in the equation, you treat them as constants. Similarly, dou by dou z, z is a variable, x and y are constants. Example, let's say u is x, y square, z cube. Now if I say dou u by dou x, that will be dou by dou x, x, y square, z cube. Tell me one thing, if there is a constant, what will you do in a differential? You throw it out, isn't it? So here y square and z cube are constant, they come out. You have dou x by dou x. So that's y square z cube into 1 because dou x by dou x is 1. When you say dou u by dou y, x y square z cube. Now x and z are constants. See, whatever you differentiate, only that guy is a variable. Everyone else is a constant. So x and z cube will come outside. You are stuck with y square. What is y square ka differential? X z cube into 2y. Dou u by dou z will be dou by dou z x y square z cube. X and y square will come out. You have a z cube ka differential. So that's x y square 3z square. So basically, when you differentiate, except that variable, everything else is a constant. You can just treat them like a number and solve the differentiation. That's why we call it partial differentiation because, frankly speaking, x, y, z all are variables. So this partial differentiation, right, is a mathematical concept where, see now, u is a scalar quantity, force is a vector quantity. You can get a vector quantity from a scalar quantity. So this is how you convert. And the same thing, exact same thing will again come in gravitation and electrostatics. So partial differentiation will again pop up in two more places. So Lucky sir, next chapter is electrostatics only. So there in that he'll be teaching this partial differentiation thing again. So remember this, saves time. And questions do come on this thing. I'll show you a few. Put it down. Next thing.
Just a minute.
Next. Let me show you an example. So U is x plus y. Mass is 2 kg. So this is potential energy. So this is a question in a NEET level. They ask something similar. Then they ask you find the acceleration of the particle. Meaning, if you don't know what you're doing now, first time it feels like, what the hell is this thing? You gave me potential energy and you're asking me acceleration. How will you find, acceleration from energy? So here the catch is, we know the force is minus dou u by dou x I cap minus dou u by dou y j cap. So the point is, from potential energy get force. So how you do that? Dou u by dou x is how much? So dou x plus y, like I told you, when you're differentiating with x, it's constant. So it is like x plus constant. So that's dou x by dou x plus dou y by dou x. That's 1 plus 0. Similarly, when you do dou u by dou y, again, it's a constant plus y. So if you're differentiating x with respect to y here, x is like a constant because it is a partial differentiation. So when you substitute here, you end up with minus I cap minus j cap. That is a force. And we know force is equal to mass into acceleration. We get acceleration is minus half I plus j. So this is the vector form. You want the magnitude, that will be half into root 2. So 1 by root 2 meters per second square. That's your answer. So if they give you potential energy in terms of x and y, you differentiate, get the force, and write F is equal to ma for acceleration. Put it on. I'll show you one more. Copied? No, let's see one more. You guys give it a try. Let's say the potential energy is given by sine of x plus y. Mass is 2 kg. Find the acceleration of the particle at pi by 4 comma 0. Coordinates are given now. If you see in the previous case, the force was constant. Here, the force might be changing. So it is sine of x plus y. So x and y are inside the sign. Find the force at the coordinates pi by 4 comma 0. Try, I'll give it 2-3 minutes. Interesting. See. So first thing, dou u by dou x. So this is dou u by dou x sine of x plus y. This is your like your chain rule. This is sine of something. So this would be what? Sine of something. The function is cos of x plus y. Then differentiate x plus y. So that would be cos x plus y. So here, when you're differentiating with x, y is a constant. So that will be 1 plus 0. Similarly, when you do dou u by dou y, dou u by dx sine x plus y. Sorry, dou u by dou y. So here y is a variable and x is a constant. So this is sine of constant plus variable. So you can again cos of x plus y and then differential of x plus y. So you get cos of x plus y into 0 plus 1. So end of the day, both are equal actually. So we know the force is minus dou u by dou x I cap minus dou u by dou y j cap. Substitute it here to get minus cos x plus y I cap minus cos x plus y j cap. So this thing, if you take out cos x plus y common, this is the force at any position actually. But it was given x is 0 and y is pi by 4. The force would be minus cos pi by 4. That's minus 1 by root 2 I plus j. You want magnitude? I plus j ka magnitude is root 2 and already there's a root 2 sitting there. So that is 1. That's mass into acceleration. That's half. So this was a JEE mains level question. Something like this was asked in JEE mains also, but that was long back, 2000s. And something like this also was popped up in somewhere in 15th of 2014 in NEET. So questions are actually repeating a lot, and it is bound to happen now. Like I told you, because in JEE mains and NEET, initially it used to be single paper every year. Now they're putting 16 papers. There's almost 400 questions, and NEET it is even more, 16 into 45. So huge number of questions. Now don't worry about that, because once the portion gets over, we'll be sitting and solving all the previous NEET and previous JEE mains questions. That's what we'll be doing for a month. Not much. I think total must be around 2,000 to 3,000. You'll be strong enough to do all the 3,000 questions. Don't worry. This year your seniors did. Put it up. Let's see one more. Next thing. Turn in the page. Then we define potential energies now. So we have two types of potential energy. First thing is a gravitational potential energy. GPE. So we have taken that example, you see. So the particle goes from here A to B. The height is h. So work done by gravity is how much? My negative of change in potential energy, that was the definition. And we also calculated work done by gravity was minus mgh. So we get delta U is mgh. That's nothing but potential energy UB minus UA is mg. The height difference between B and A. Now, if you take UA as a reference, so normally whenever you define potential energy, we always choose something as a reference. So if you take A as a reference, the ground level, then height of A is 0 and potential energy at A is taken as 0. So we get the potential energy is U is equal to mgh. H is height from the reference line. That's an important thing. H is not any random height. It is a height from reference line. Put this down. I'll show you some examples. Next thing. So when, for example, when someone talks about potential energy, let's say we have two blocks here, A, and there is one block on the ground. Same mass. And this height is h. Now, if someone asks you, what is the potential energy of the blocks? The first thing you need to ask is that what is your reference? So if this is my reference 1, this is my reference 2, and this is my reference 3. Let's say this height is also h. Now, if you try to calculate here, so potential energy of A, potential energy of B, according to reference 1, reference 2, reference 3, and if you take the difference also, UA minus UB. If you ask reference 1, what is the potential energy of A, it will say mgh because it is at a height of h. Reference 2 will say 0. Reference 3 will say minus mgh because it is height h below the reference line. You're getting it? Similarly, if you talk about B, this was 0, this is minus mgh, this is minus 2 mgh. But if you look at the difference, it is always mgh. So if you can see something here, the potential energy depends on the reference line. Different people can think the energy is different. So depending on where you're standing, potential energy can be different. But potential energy difference, if you want difference between two positions, that is independent of reference. So the simple statement, right, will change the whole question, difference, that one word. Meaning, it does not matter where you stand and see the problem, the difference will remain same. But the potential energy, it depends on the different positions. Meaning, I'll just give a crude example. Say, let's say you and your friend both are standing with a distance of 2 meters. Now imagine if I stand here 5 meters, how far is B? How far is A? B is 5 meters, A is 7 meters. Suppose if I stand here, and let's say this is 100 meters. How far is B? How far is A? 100 and 1 or 2 meters. You're getting? The distance of A and B will change depending on where I'm standing, na? But what is the distance between them? 2 meters. Does it matter where I stand? Got my point? So the difference between them will not depend wherever I stand. But your positions will depend on where I stand. The difference won't matter. Hope you're getting the logic there. So kind of like that. So potential energy difference is more fundamental than potential energy. So yeah, put it up. So this will be a question. Potential energy does not depend on the reference frame. Potential energy difference does not depend on reference frame. The second statement is right. So you'll be trapped with that one small word. So you have to be careful there. Yeah. Next one. So this is one potential energy, gravitational potential energy. The another type of potential energy we deal with is a spring potential energy. So these are the two things which we encounter a lot in mechanics. I'll call it SPE. So if you have a spring in a natural length, and let's say it is stretched by X. Now, so work done by the spring is minus half kx square. We derived it today. And we know work done is also equal to negative of change in potential energy. We get the change in potential energy is half kx square. So when you stretch it from 0 to x, you need to give this much, the system stores this much energy. So this is u of x minus u natural. Meaning you're stretching from x to natural length to x position. So remember in springs, natural length is always the reference. So unlike gravitation, you can take wherever you want, but springs, we keep it always as natural length because natural length, there's no elongation. So therefore your formula becomes U is half kx square. This is what you need to remember. So the potential energy stored in a spring is half kx square, where x is elongation or compression from natural length. So this is an important. Put it on. Next thing. So those are the two potential energies we deal with. Now, we also have something called types of equilibrium. So what do you mean by this exactly? First of all, what do you mean by equilibrium? If net force on a system is 0, the body is said to be in equilibrium. But then, there are types of equilibrium. What do you mean by that? So first thing is a stable equilibrium. There are total 3 types of equilibrium. So equilibrium meaning simply you being at, you can keep it at rest. So imagine a valley. Now, if you take a ball here, what will happen? It will come down. If you keep the ball here, it will come down, meaning they'll always try to come down to this point. So this point is called a stable equilibrium point. So what happens here, if displaced, if you push it from this position, it will always come back. So the first condition here is force should be 0. Now look at this point, right? It's a valley, means it's at the lowest position. So if it's at the lowest position, what will happen to potential energy? U is minimum, isn't it? If you're in a valley, the potential energy is the least because you're at the least height possible. So what is the condition for that then? Du by dx is 0. D square u by dx square is greater than 0. This is a condition for minimum. Maximum, minimum, if you remember, we did this thing. First differential is 0 and second differential is greater than 0. So anything that satisfies these two conditions is a minimum or a stable equilibrium point. So that is the meaning of stable equilibrium. Think of your water bottle. When you keep your water bottle straight, and if you push it, what will happen? It will fall down, no? It won't come back to vertical again. But if you keep your water bottle like this and you push it, it will simply roll, no? So when your water bottle is straight, it is unstable equilibrium. When the water bottle is sleeping, it's a stable equilibrium. So it's the same body, right? Can have two different equilibrium positions. You must have played with your, pen. You can keep your pen standing vertically sometimes, but a little push, it will fall down. It's an unstable equilibrium. Put it up. So that's the meaning of a stable equilibrium. You try to push from that point, you want to go. You'll always try to come back to that point. Next thing. unstable equilibrium. This is like a hill. So now if you try to push the ball here, what will happen? It will fall down. If you push it this way, it will go that way. Meaning it will not come back. No? So if displaced, it won't come back. If you just gently, you're not pushing it a lot of force, you're just taking it, putting it little there. Take it from here and just keep it here. It won't come back. It will go away. If displaced, it goes away. It's just like a water bottle. You just tip it a little and it will just fall down. It won't try to come back that easily. So in this case, what will happen? The first thing, force is 0. And second thing, you can see it is at the highest point. So U is maximum. The potential energy is maximum. So what is the condition for maximum? Du by dx is 0. And d square u by dx square is less than 0. So this is a condition for maximum. There's a third type of equilibrium called neutral equilibrium. In this, if you take a ball and if you keep it here, it neither comes back nor goes away. So for it, right, every position is fine only. There is no thing. If displaced, it neither goes nor comes back. Such a state is called neutral equilibrium. So in this case, the condition is du by dx is 0 and the double differential is also 0. Again, not the whole condition, but at our level, this much is sufficient. So these are the three types of equilibriums. All are equilibriums only, meaning all will be at rest if you keep them. So how do you know whether it's stable or unstable? You have to push it a little and see. You displace a little and see if it is coming back, not coming back, or doing nothing. So that's what will tell you whether something is stable or unstable. Clear? Next thing. So basically, every system tries to be in a stable equilibrium. If something is an unstable equilibrium, think of a stone on a mountain. At some point during its thing, it will start rolling down. Maybe due to erosion or something. It depends. Next thing. Great. So how do you get questions based on this? They did ask some questions on this thing multiple times. So this was a UX graph. Meaning you're drawing a graph potential energy versus X coordinate. So there are 3 points A, B, C. The question is which of the following points are stable and unstable? Think about it. I'll give you a minute. So you gave a potential energy versus X graph, meaning at A and C it is 0 and increasing, decreasing, fine, so all that. So seeing the graph, you have to tell me which points are stable and which points are unstable. See, first of all, you have to be in equilibrium. See, when you talk about stable, unstable, first of all, you have to be in equilibrium. So what is force? F is minus du by dx, isn't it? So this should be 0 for equilibrium. That is, slope should be 0. Where is slope 0 here? Only at B slope is 0. And look at this thing. It is at the highest position, na? Potential energy is maximum. And U is maximum at B. So if the force is 0 and the potential energy is maximum, B is what? B is unstable. What about A and C? A and C are nothing. See, force is not 0 only in the first place. So A and C are nothing. They're not stable, unstable, neutral. कुछ भी नहीं है. So only B is an equilibrium and that is unstable. So first of all, it should have a force 0. Then you can talk about stable and unstable. You might think like, sir, but potential energy at A and C is 0, na? 0 is not minimum, na? It can be negative also, isn't it? Potential energy at A is 0, I agree, but who said that is minimum? If you see the graph is still going down, so there are points where potential energy less than A and C also. So A and C are not minimum. Put it down. Then let's see the actual question they asked. They asked in both J and NEET also. They gave an FX graph. See, both the graphs look same, but remember the whole thing is different. This is a force versus X graph. The previous one was potential energy versus X graph. Question was same. Which of the following is stable and unstable? Think about it. I'll give you 2 minutes. Just keep doing this. I'll be back in a minute. Answers? First of all, for equilibrium, what should happen? Force should be 0, na? Where is force 0? For equilibrium, F should be 0. If you can clearly see, at A and C force is 0, isn't it? And B, there is some force. So B is useless actually here. So one thing I'm sure, A and C are in equilibrium. I don't know which one is stable, which one is unstable. And B is nothing. So now we need to figure out how among A and C, which is stable and which is unstable. And there are two ways you can do that. One is a mathematical way, one is a little more intuitive. So I'll show you both. I think I'll give you one more minute. Try to figure out which one is stable, which is unstable. See, first let's see the mathematical way, which is a little lengthy and all, but let's see. Now, when you talk about for stable equilibrium, you need to satisfy du by dx is 0. That is force 0. Okay. And d square u by dx square is greater than 0. And we also know force is minus du by dx. So what is this double differential? Double differential is nothing but d by dx of du by dx. If I substitute this thing here, I get dy dx of minus f is greater than 0. And you know, when you multiply minus signs on an inequality, the inequality will change. This becomes df by df x less than 0. Meaning for a stable equilibrium, slope is negative. So in an fx graph, if the slope is negative, it's a stable equilibrium. Similarly, for unstable, we know du by dx is 0 and d square u by dx square is less than 0. Again, if I substitute the same stuff here, so here you get the slope is greater than 0. So if you just look at the graph again, so if you look at A and C, look at the slope at A. Slope at A is an acute angle. So slope is positive. Yeah. That means this is A, na? So which is unstable. Like I told you, this is pure mathematics.
A is unstable.
So, yeah. It looks little weird, but let me give an, you know, if you see intuitively, it looks more sense. But then again, you should click in the exam. So C is stable. But still, mathematically, in an fx graph, you want to find stable and unstable equilibrium. Two things. First, f should be 0. Second thing, the slope should be negative for stable and positive for unstable. Like today, there's a lot of theory, very less problems actually. But the next 2-3 classes, we'll be doing a lot of problems. Literally everything will come. Kinematics, loss of motion, friction, circular, work power, energy. Put it down. Any doubts on this thing, ask me. I'll show you an alternate method to solve this. Next. Now listen carefully here. The alternate, you have to look from the graph only. This was an fx graph. Now see carefully here. At A, if you push the particle a little forward, see this is how you check now. You push it and you push it a little and see whether it's coming or not. If I push it a little forward, the force is positive. Means what? I push you forward, force is also forward. If I push you backward, the force is negative. Meaning I push you back, the force is also backward. You tell me. If I push you forward and the force is also forward, will you ever come back? You'll go away, no? You're getting it. So here, when it is pushed forward, force is also forward. Similarly for backward also. If you push it backward, force is also backward. It doesn't come back. There's an unstable equilibrium. It goes away. When the moment you push a little, it goes away. So this A was unstable. Look at C. You push it forward, the force is negative. You push it backward, the force is positive. Meaning if I push you back, the force will push you front. If I push you front, force will push you back. So if pushed forward, force is backward. Means it is coming back, right? Similarly for backward also. So this, it comes back. Every time you try to push it from there, it comes back. So this is a stable equilibrium. Does this make sense? This thing looks more intuitive and easy to solve. You don't need to use all that differential stuff and all. Hope this thing makes sense.
Sir, please show the previous page. Done, sir.
Clear? Next one. So that's about, different equilibriums, stable, unstable, and everything. So we have discussed about potential energy, then relation between force and potential energy. And then we talked about two types of potential energy, stable, this thing, spring and gravitation, the types of equilibrium. So yeah, things are in place now. Work energy theorem. Now we know what is work done. Work done is integral F bar dot dr bar. This can be written as mass into acceleration into dr. And I know what is acceleration, v dv by dr. The dr gets cancelled out, you end up with m into v dv. So when you integrate this, you get m into v square by 2, limits u to v. So you get work done by all forces is half m v square minus half m u square, which is change in kinetic energy. This is again an important statement. Remember, till now we did one thing, which was work done by internal conservative forces negative of potential energy. This is the second one. Theoretical question. Wait. I forgot to tell you one thing. Before this, now we have to write one thing. Not a big thing. Kinetic energy. So K. So if you have a block mass m going with speed u, the kinetic energy is given by half mass into speed square. So this can be also written as multiply and divided by mass. It will become m by 2m. And we know P is equal to mu, which is momentum. So you can also write kinetic energy as P square by 2m. And momentum can be also written as root over 2mk. Kinetic energy. Now suppose the same block, if there is a person A who is also running with speed v, if you ask him what is the kinetic energy, so A will say kinetic energy with respect to A, he will say, the block is going with the speed u minus v. So if you see, kinetic energy depends on the frame of reference. Depending on who is seeing, you can have different kinetic energies. So a person on the ground will say half m u square, a person running with v will say half m u minus v whole square. Put this down. After that, we have to write the work energy theorem. Next thing. Copied? This page, work energy theorem. Copied? Next thing. So when you say work done by all forces, is change in kinetic energy, you can divide this thing into two parts. Work done by internal conservative forces plus work done by external forces. Now, when you say internal conservative forces, you are supposed to take gravitation and spring. So all gravitation and spring forces will be included here. This is everything else, friction and other forces. Friction, the forces which you are applying, all these things will go under external forces. So this can be written as work done by internal. And we also know this thing. Work done by internal conservative forces is minus change in potential energy. So this becomes minus delta U plus work done by external is change in kinetic energy. So you can write work done by external is change in kinetic energy plus change in potential energy. So kinetic energy plus potential energy is called a total mechanical energy. So this can be written as change in kinetic plus potential is change in total mechanical energy. So this is another one. So work done by external forces is change in total mechanical energy. Put it up.
So,
Yeah.
could you go to the previous page for a second?
This one.
None, sir.
Copied. Then, so this work done by external forces is change in total mechanical energy. This can be also written as E final minus E initial, energy final minus energy initial. So this is the third statement. So total three statements we have. Work done by internal conservative forces is minus of change in potential energy. Work done by all forces is change in kinetic energy. Work done by external forces is change in total mechanical energy. If work done by external is 0, we get E initial is equal to E final. This we call as law of conservation of energy. So if there are no external forces acting, work done by external forces is 0 on the system, you can conserve energy. So basically that is most part of the theory actually. So we are going to do problems based on this.